Hello out there. This is Nicholas Stander with Stander and Company, the Entrepreneur's Companion. And today we're kind of continuing our conversation about budgeting. As usual, we'll try to keep it to just a few minutes so it's something that's easy to listen to. I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. You can find out more information about Stander and Company if you go to www.stander and Stander LLC. That's STAND as in David ERLLC.com. You can see more information about our tax services and our bookkeeping services, marketing, and we have an insurance agency here. So all of the things to kind of support you on the back end of your business. Anyway, let's get right into it here. We're talking about budgeting, right? Continuing the conversation about budgeting, and makes most sense, I guess, for us to kind of just start at the revenue portion of things. And so, in general, there's a couple of different ways to handle this. I'm going to say that there's two big ways to handle it. If this is your first time really doing any budgeting, we talked about it in the last episode about how important it is for small companies to do some type of budgeting. But the easiest way is to look at what your growth was last year, see if there's just a straight percentage that you can use. I still like to do it by month. A lot of people will do hey, last year was $100,000. This year is going to be $120,000, and let's just divide that by 12, and it'll be the same number every single month. If your revenue works that way, then it's okay. If you do tend to have, maybe you have a client list and you're working that client list the same number of clients every single month, and so your revenue is very predictable that way. That might be something that makes sense, but it's very seldom going to be accurate, right? You have clients that are being added in certain months, and you win some, you lose some sort of thing, and they kind of pop in and out. And a lot of businesses have seasonality, right? Seasonality is a cycle that happens inside of a year. And so maybe your summer is better than your winter, things like that, that you should concentrate your revenue in that period so you know really where you are. And so even when we're doing a percentage, I generally like to do a monthly growth year over year. The systems that we use, especially QuickBooks Online, they are QuickBooks Online has actually added some features now to make budgeting a little bit easier and a little bit more robust, really. But the easiest, you can dump things into Excel and then load them back into your accounting software so that you can just add that growth and make it straightforward. Again, though, the monthly is going to give you a better answer because that's how you get to see, how did January compare to January of last year? Really don't want to know what it compared to as an average. That's not what I'm going for in the first glance anyway. What I'm looking at is how January performed in 2024. What was our January performance in 2024 versus what it was in 2023? What does that growth look like? And is it reasonable, even when you're using a straight growth formula like that? It does make sense for you to step back and look at it and make sure that things are reasonable. It's wonderful to say that you're going to have these massive increases in revenue, but is it reasonable? Are you setting yourself up for failure? And that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Again, as we said before, it is not about getting this thing perfect. It's about taking the best guess that you can at the moment. And if the information that you have only allows you to be able to do a percentage year over year growth or decline, then that should be the information that you use, in the hopes that in the process of doing your budgeting, you learn a little bit more about your company. When you learn a little bit more about your company, you'll be able to give a more accurate budget going forward. And that's really the purpose here. Remember that. Keep that in mind. It's not your first run at this is not going to be perfection. Your 10th run is not going to be perfection. It's really about being able to look at, hey, I thought 2024 was going to be a 10% growth, and it was only 5%, and then trying to figure out why. Now, as this thing, as your work here progresses, and often, again, takes years, months and years to get to, you can try to get to the second option, which is kind of, we'll call it a price and mix formula. And what that is it's about looking at the different services that you provide. And so you're getting a little more granular into the revenue rather than just saying that here's a monthly amount. You're getting in and saying, well, this is the number, for us, it would be this is the number of tax returns. And I am planning to have a price increase of X on all of these tax returns. And so I can look at that and kind of break that out to here's how many new tax returns I think I'm going to be doing. And then here is the growth that I'm projecting on the older tax returns because I know I'm marking those up higher. That of course can work for many, many different things, whether it's rental properties. If you have rental properties, there's 5 of them out there that a lease is coming up. And so when that lease comes up, that you could have a price increase on that particular piece of property. And so again, you can see how that kind of gets a little more accurate because you're running with the numbers that you really believe are going to happen on that more granular level. The second piece of that, I said price was the first one. The second one is mix. And so when we talk about mix in revenue, we're talking about how different profits drop out of different lines of business, right? Meaning that every line of business is not the exact same amount of profit. And so we play with the balance between different product lines. So let's say product A has a higher profit margin than product B, but they're not going to sell 50-50, right? You might have a greater price increase in A or in B in order to try to make them equally profitable. But looking at that mix and playing with that mix is going to yield different results for you, both for revenue and eventually when we talk about gross margin or gross profit. So being able, and how do we affect that, right? Because that's really what this is about, is that you're looking at these different products and you're saying, well, it is easier and better for me. I make more money when I sell 60% of product A and only 40% of product B. Well, so how do we affect that, right? You have to actually be able to go in there and do your advertising, because all of this kind of will continue to trickle down. That's the beauty of doing the budgeting process, right? That it will kind of lead us down the path of why are we advertising where we're advertising? Well, because we see more profit or we see more revenue and opportunities that are coming out of product A rather than product B. And you see this, can get really complicated fast if you have, even when you start to get into 10 different products, it can easily turn into quite the Excel spreadsheet there, trying to figure out what your product mix and pricing is going to be. We have 6 different lines of business here, and we attempt to do it at a price mix level. But interestingly, not on all product lines. We will back off sometimes and just do a simple price increase on certain product lines just because it's so difficult for us to be able to predict the month to month transactions. So, all right, that puts us at about 9 minutes. So I'll go ahead and close it up today. Quick recap: revenue growth projections, for budgeting purposes, we're doing one of 2 ways. We have a standard growth, which is multiplying it up, just grossing it up off of some percentage. That's generally going to be your year over year. Start with last year's number, maybe add a little bit more, give yourself that reach goal. And then your second option is price and mix. And if you have any questions about that, please give us a call here at Stander & Company, 281-354-0700. You can get more information about us at www.standerllc.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll be talking about cost of goods next episode, and operating expenses. So it should be interesting for us. And again, we'll try to keep it to that less than 10 minutes. Hopefully this entrepreneurial bite was useful for you. Again, Nicholas Stander of Stander & Company signing off from Humble, Texas. Look forward to getting your feedback and comments. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll talk to you next time.